welcome to Music with Jake. I'm your host, Jake, and with me I have the merch king, Bill Young, also of Cultist Black. And is it Nirvani? Is that what it
Yeah,
is? Okay.
Nirvana, the Nirvana tribute band. I also do a little bit of work with Tracking the Fall. It's another North Carolina local band. Do a little bit of everything. So always
He-
busy.
Oh hell yeah, man! I missed you the first time I saw Cultist Black. I was supposed to see you guys in Grand Rapids during the Rise of the Machine tour. Unfortunately, you had to jump off for that particular date because you had other obligations. So I didn't see you until later on in the year at Michigan Metal Fest. I think it
It
was. Yes.
it
Man,
be
that
that way
was
sometimes.
it do, man. It was pretty hectic during that time period, man, between the Rise of the Machine and the Michigan Metal Fest date. You guys were pretty busy. I mean, you as a merch man, you're like every show. So does that grind on you sometimes?
I mean, what you have your good days and your bad days. There's some nights where everybody at shows has a little bit to drink, and somebody wants to come up and just chill at the table with you a little too long. And those are the nights where I'm ready to pack it up and get the hell out. I mean, it happens. I guess, everybody, even the band members, get a little burnt out every once in a while, especially when you're out on the road for 2, 3, 4 weeks. It happens that way. But I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. So
I can dig that, man. I mean, music is fulfilling. I mean, I get that it can be a drag at times. Especially being, crew member. The packing up and loading in and all that. A lot of people don't realize just how strenuous that is, and especially the merch table, man. Like you're one of the busier crew members because you are there to man all of the merchandise that's being sold. So you have to deal with money, you have to deal with customers, you have to deal with a whole sleuth of shit. And I don't think people realize just how tough that can be. Because you're right, you do get those people who are, they've had a few too many and they're just, slosh just hanging all over you. And that would, yeah, that would start to grind my gears after a minute. I'm not gonna lie, especially after like a hot day of being in a festival all day and being, underneath the beaten sun, can't really leave your post. That was just, oh man, kudos to you for
They
having
like
patience.
most of the bands that I work with, they're pretty cool about, let me take breaks or with Cold as Black, they all come and hang out at the merch table after the set, and you know, we just kind of we just kind of help each other out. Works really well. I mean, I've known those guys since before Cold as Black was even a thing. So we're all good friends, and realize that, hey, sometimes you get stressed out and sometimes you got to step away for a minute, and that's just how it works. So is what it is. But like I said, it's being out on the road is awesome to me. I love being out on the road. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about the people around you. Some people learn that they can't do it. It's just one of those things. So it's always stimulation and go 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 no matter what. So you're either driving, you're either at a show. It's just always something going on. There's very little sleep to be had. So, and 9 times out of 10, you're sleeping in the back of a van in a Walmart parking lot in Canada. So,
I just had a tour manager talk about that the other day. He was telling me about when touring with bands. Like, yeah, man, sometimes we just have to shack up at the parking lot of Target. I was like, oh, you guys don't go to Walmart. He's like, we don't mention that. We don't bring up that W word. I'm like, oof, some
we
some
try
rough
to do
feelings.
we try to do Planet Fitness a lot too, because you can go in and take showers and stuff like that. I think most all of us have Planet Fitness cards, so you can get a couple people in that don't. And most Planet Fitnesses are pretty cool about bands showing up. They're always interested, and oh hey, what band are you in? I see you guys out in the parking lot. Of course, we're all wearing black and look dirty and nasty, so of course we're in a band. So
I've been told that a lot of times band members actually smell worse than the fans after shows, and I'm like, I believe it. You guys have to try and find places to do your laundry and all that. And that's another thing that's kind of cool with, these bands that are on tour. Everyone thinks it's this glorious, luxurious life, and I'm like, bro, they're stopping at like your coin machine laundry mats just to do laundry. They're showering at the Flying J.
Yes, sir.
It's it's not as glamorous as everyone thinks. Not everyone can ride in a $3 million bus.
That reminds me, I guess, of a meme that I saw the other day, and it was like, "Yo, you guys must see so many cool things," and it was like a picture of a cornfield, and then like a truck stop and something else, and I was like, Bucky's is like our excited that we get to go to Bucky's. So I mean,
I
that's the
see you guys.
glamour out of it. Yeah.
I see you guys post about that all the time. Like you, Legion. I'm not really gonna say anyone else's names. Just to keep that sense of anonymity, about you guys. But yeah, I see you guys posted about those a lot. I'm like, the first time I ever went to Bucky's was at Welcome to Rockville a couple years ago. I stopped at the Bucky's there, outside of Daytona. And I was like, man, I've never seen so much jerky in my life. Like, dude, kangaroo jerky? What?
Right,
It was
right.
good though. It was
It's
good.
funny. We have a group chat for the band, that we talk every day or whatever about whatever. And the name of the group chat is Bucky's Bitches. So
So do all of you guys call it Bucky's? Or I know some people call it Bucky's, some of it call it Busey's. I'm like, what?
we just say Bucky's. So I mean,
Okay.
maybe that's a Southern thing. Who knows? So I
I
just
don't
know
know.
I like going there and getting barbecue sandwiches and beef jerky. So
Oh man, yeah, their jerky is to die for. For those who have not tried it, if you ever go anywhere near Bucky's, stop there. It's amazing. It's awesome.
100%.
Oh yeah, I love their cheeses too. Like all of their stuff is just on point, and they have the coolest little knickknacks. I don't know anywhere else I could go to a gas station and find a Speedo that has their mascot on it.
Dude, you can even buy like patio furniture there. It's great, man.
I mean, it's a one-stop shop for bands that are on tour, like legit. Like you can find anything you need there, man. It's the perfect spot to stop and pick up, like a little grill if you want to go tailgating or something before a show or what have you. It's a little city. It's crazy.
It's not a
So
bad idea. So
not a bad idea. I see you have a Friday the 13th poster behind you. So you're into horror films there, huh, buddy?
see if I can show you some of my. These are all autographed. So I got all kinds of stuff up there. That guitar is signed by Corey Taylor, Phil Anselmo, and Rob Zombie. Got a Halloween poster right behind my head here. It's signed by like 5 or 6 different Michael Myers and a whole bunch of cast members. My favorite, right in the middle up at the top, is Vincent Price signature. So that was a
Vincent Price.
yeah, that was
Oof.
a big one for me. Super big on horror. So yeah, I just got tons and tons and tons of stuff. Yeah, not only with the roadie and the merch thing that I do. Occasionally, I'll go with a friend of mine. He's an agent for horror movie celebrities, so I'll go and sit with those guys every once in a while. I've just got boxes and boxes of signed stuff by the Michael Myerses and Jasons and Tony Todd, Candyman. Is one of my big ones.
Wow,
Uh,
the Candyman.
I haven't done that much in the last couple years, but I've just been more focused on band and doing my own thing online and everything. So yeah, but yeah, lots of horror stuff in my office here for sure.
So here's a question. A lot of people have mixed reviews on this one. The Rob Zombie horror films. What are your thoughts on his movies that he's produced?
So House of a Thousand Corpses is probably one of my favorite. He says it's one of his least favorite that he's done.
Hmm.
Kind of after that, Devil's Rejects was okay. The Halloween I thought was pretty good take on it. Part 2 was kind of trippy. Overall, I'm kind of 50-50 with him. I mean, I I like what he does, but I'll watch his movies and be like, that was okay, and may never watch it again. But House of Thousand Corpses is one I definitely watch, you know, 2 or 3 times a year for sure. Just when that came out, for me, that was kind of a game changer for horror movies because everything was kinda stale at the time, and, there wasn't really a whole lot coming out, but when that came out, I was like, "Whoa, this is great." So, big fan of the House of Thousand Corpses for sure.
Oh yeah, man, I remember that came out. I want to say I was like, I'm about to date myself here. I was like 10 or 11. I want to say somewhere around that um, time frame when that came out, and yeah, I absolutely fell in love with his filmmaking at that point. I just like how it's gritty, you
Sure.
know, and I love that he was able to score Malcolm McDowell for the Halloween films. I absolutely love Malcolm McDowell to the point where I have the dreaded and very much banned film Caligula, actually, by Malcolm McDowell, which is a super rare find. To those who don't know, it was made by Penthouse Films and got the adults only rating and was quite bad, yet surprisingly historically accurate. If you know
Yeah,
anything about Caligula,
right.
um, it was really on point. So it was kind of cool to see Malcolm McDowell show up in that, along with him in the movie 31, which, again, I love killer clowns, and you know who doesn't love a psychotic Nazi midget? You know,
Right.
that's just that's just something you just don't. Well, actually, I want to say he was of Latino descent and was a Nazi midget. So it was just a whole bunch of conflicting things right there, which was just awesome.
One of those
Um,
WTF moments for sure. So
oh, oh, for sure, for sure.
funny that you mentioned Malcolm McDowell, he's actually on that poster in one of the eyeballs, I believe. All the Rob Zombie characters on that Halloween poster, and they're a little bit more accessible than some of the old school guys, so I see them a lot more often than, the original '79 Halloween guys and stuff, but they're on that poster as well, so
That's really cool. Actually, that's I grew up with the Halloween movies and the Friday the 13th. I actually used to own Friday the 13th on a Nintendo. Don't know if you remember that game for the Nintendo. Oh man, that game was hard.
that one and, Nightmare on Elm Street, those were 2 of my faves for the NES for sure.
Oh man, yes. What do you think of the talks of Kevin Bacon taking over?
I mean, you can't go wrong with the bacon, right? So,
No, I mean, I still think one of his best performances ever were the Tremor movies. You know,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
come on.
you
I
can't
mean,
go wrong with Tremors, any of them for sure, good or bad,
no,
so
I mean, and some of them are so bad that they're good. You know, like that. That's the best part about the Tremors films. They're just some of them are so ridiculously bad that they just end up being good. You know, they become cult classics. And I want to say that his now some people might disagree with me on this. I want to say his Tremors performance is probably better than Footloose.
yeah, different genres, but yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there's nothing like watching Kevin Bacon get angry and go dancing. I mean, I'm mad, so I'm gonna go dance in a warehouse, like, come on. Man. That I would go for that scene any day, but yeah, Tremors is on point for sure. So
Oh yeah, I I yeah, I just those were some of the first like horror films I guess I really saw. Um, I would say the first actual like horror film that I saw and I remember to this day because I had nightmares about it for the longest time. Chucky.
Chucky.
Yes, Chucky gave me nightmares for the longest time as a little kid. I don't know why. Because now I look at the dolls, I'm like, dude, those things are so fucking cool. I want one,
My
but like as a little
my
kid, I was like, oh my God.
Mine wasn't even a rated R. I don't believe it was rated R. I think it was like PG-13, but it was Poltergeist. I saw it
Ooh.
as like a little kid, and I was living in Texas at the time, and I had a giant tree outside my window. I'm talking like enormous tree. And of course in the movie the tree eats the kid through the window and whatnot. And I was terrified. So my grandma comes to visit and she's like, that tree's not gonna bother you. You need to go give it a hug at your friend. I was like, just having a conniption fit. She's like, tell the tree we're friends, and I'm like, no, he's not my friend. So it was so bad.
That's some given tree shit right there. Oh man. No,
Out of all the things in that fucking movie, it was the tree, man. Just because there was one outside my window, I guess. But yeah, that was a traumatizing moment for me as a kid. So
dude, have you ever noticed that as little kids, we are terrified of the dumbest shit? The
100.
dumbest things terrify us, and I just don't know why. As an adult, we look back on it and we're like, bro, what the fuck? Like now we laugh at shit that's a million times worse than that. You
I was
know?
I was afraid RoboCop. I was afraid of the Kane robot in Ed 209 like as a kid. Now I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking, man? Like it's just
Dude.
stupid.
RoboCop, man. Those first two movies were the shit. Absolutely love RoboCop.
It's
Yes.
funny. I went to a horror convention over the weekend and I met the cast of Aliens. A lot of the Colonial Marines were there, and I was super excited because I have a poster signed by Sigourney Weaver, and I was talking to most of them, and I was just like, "Yo, here's the thing, these movies mean so much to me. Aliens, RoboCop, Return of the Living Dead, all that stuff that came out during the '80s. I was like, since I was a kid, I lived in, Mississippi, and I was telling him, I was like, dude, there wasn't anything to do except watch movies and go out in the woods and play with stick guns and stuff. So I mean, here we are, me and my buddies out in the woods playing Colonial Marines or Aliens or whatever, and it was great to see, some of the reactions from some of these guys. It was just they were so just like, "That is so cool." I love, hearing stories like that, and, we just looked at it as, "Oh, we're just making a movie, it's gonna be okay," and, "Oh, we're getting paid, and then we're going home," but then here we are, years later, and they're at conventions, and they're just like, "Man, I didn't really realize at the time how big this was gonna be," so, very, very cool to meet some of those guys and talk about, my love for 80s horror, sci-fi, all that kind of stuff. So grew up with that most definitely.
So you grew up with the Aliens franchise. What did you think of the film Prometheus?
Um, I liked it for what it was. Um, I didn't really expect it to be anything alien related. I mean, they touted it as being alien related, but the way I kinda looked at it, was just kind of in the same universe, it's not setting anything up, and then they had the other one that came out right after that. I liked it okay too for what it was. The thing I can say about those movies, though, is I'm in it for some of the visuals sometimes, like, some movies, like Blade Runner. I mean, Blade Runner's kinda slow, but dude, the visuals in that movie are killer.
Top
Blade
tier.
Runner 2049, I went to see it at the theater, and I was just like, "Holy shit," like, nothing happened in this movie, but just listening to the music and watching, how pretty the movie was, I guess, and I kinda feel that way about Prometheus and stuff like that. Just visually, it's a good movie. I mean, if you try to accept it as an Aliens movie, you're probably not gonna, get into it as much, but I like them. I think they're good.
I think with um, you know, the with with the way that movies have progressed in graphics and visualizations, it feels like the storytelling has kind of deterred, I
Oh,
guess.
yeah.
Um, I mean, because I see a lot of remakes and stuff being made and everything, and I think that some movies just kind of need to not be touched. Perfect example of that is Roadhouse.
Roadhouse, yeah, and Jake Gyllenhaal, not looking forward to that one per se, so
No, I just some things just need to be left alone,
I
and
think
that's one of
Crow
them.
is one that needs to be left alone. The
Are
Crow, sure.
are they actually redoing that? Like I've heard rumors, but I haven't really seen anything substantial on
I
them remaking that.
I think they just wrapped filming on it, and I believe What's the guy? Skarsgård maybe was playing the Crow. Pennywise, I believe.
Is that Bill? No. Yeah, Bill?
Maybe I can't keep them straight, but one of the
There, there's
Skarsgård, right?
there's so many of them.
He's gonna be the Crow apparently, and they've either finished the film, finished filming it, or they're getting ready to. So I don't know, man. Anything after part two with the Crow, I was just like, yeah, let's not do that. So
Honestly, man, I didn't even bother to watch part two after Brandon died.
sure, yeah,
I just, it just didn't feel the same. Um, like I don't want to say like it's disrespecting him to continue making them, but at the same time, I'm like, the first one was, near perfect, for what it was in the time and with that style of filmmaking. Because like around that same time, you had The Crow, you had Spawn, love Spawn. And what was it? Darkman? Was it the Darkman? Maybe.
man was
Um,
dope.
yeah,
Movie.
movies of that time period. Like that's just what it was, and you actually had to act, and you had to
Sure.
be good. Because you didn't have all these modern day effects that you have that can totally blind you to crappy acting. Not saying that people out there suck at acting, but it's you can definitely see a decline in acting prowess from 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s to where we are now. you
Right.
know and it seems that that actually goes to music. It seems like a lot of music is becoming that way too. A lot of it is very, I don't want to say copy and paste, but it seems kind of copy and paste. At some points it seems like things are losing their originality, and I think that's just a sign of the times. I don't think
Sure.
that's just everybody.
That does apply to music too. I mean, prime example being out on tours, all over the place. And don't get me wrong, you got to start somewhere. But you have your local bands that play on the weekends or whatever. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. But if you're looking to get bigger, if you want to do those stadium tours, you want to do those, you want to do Live Nation tours, whatever, you really have to be dynamic about what you do. And so many bands that I see, just amazing people. There's nothing about them that really stands out. It's mostly your cookie cutter, metal bands. I can always hear, a band that hasn't experienced touring, that hasn't experienced, life on the road. And like I said, that's cool, if that's what you want to do. But, you have to have something that stands out nowadays. I think I'm big into original music. Like, if your music is really good, sometimes I don't even bother with the vocals or, what you're talking about, and vice versa too. Sometimes I really get into the lyrics, but you got to stand out nowadays, and I see a lot of bands that just aren't taking that progression, or you have some bands that are kind of salty because they haven't left, bumfuck Nebraska, wherever you're at, and they can't figure out why. Well, because you're not getting out there and doing stuff, and your music just kind of all blends in with everything else. I mean, I like Cultus, not only because they're my friends, but I think their music is a little bit different, than a lot of things out there right now. Um, you can definitely see some influences in some of the music, and you definitely have L as a singer, kind of bringing some of those Moto Grader vocals over, clean vocals, really good. And also, then their stage performance. I mean, it just once you see Cold as Black, it kind of all you get it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh wow, okay. Like you can hear their music and be like, pretty good. But then you see it all tied together, and you're just like, wow, this is great. So that's kind of why I like working with Cold as Black is because they're dynamic. you know, works. It's a good aesthetic for them, and it fits the music that they make too. But like I said, there's so many bands out there, just like you said, the originality is kind of like, what do you do now? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is there to do musically that hasn't been done? I don't know. So I think
It
metal is kind of in a kind of in a, wouldn't say a rut right now, but everything that's out there is just kind of like, okay, you know, it's not bad, but it's not dynamic. And I know a lot of people will disagree with me when I say, you know, you've got your Slipknot, your Ghost, you know, all these bands that are out there just fucking killing it, you know, in these stadiums and stuff. And I mean, whether you like them or hate them, they stand out, and their music is different as well. So
I will agree with that. People don't realize the cost that it takes to do those stadium tours, though. Like the amount of money and time and effort put into every single one of those shows is just absolutely outrageous. Any of the effort to put in and to put on any show. I mean, really, once you get to a certain level, you know, you are expected to sound a certain way, look a certain way, perform a certain way, and everything you do is scrutinized.
and
Everything is picked through, you know, and that's another thing that a lot of bands don't like once they get to that level, because then they're like, oh shit. They're like, we didn't know we were gonna have to do this. We didn't know we were gonna have to do that. We didn't know anything about this. I'm like, well, you know, that's the name of the game. Once you get to a certain level, dude, like you are going to be looked at through a microscope at all
right,
times.
100%. I mean, dude, you wouldn't even you couldn't even begin to understand the cost associated with just packing up in a shitty van and driving around the country for a month and a half. Like, even the cost on that nowadays is just ridiculous, and I'm really surprised, you know, that there's so many bands, you know, out and about right now. It's insane. Like, ticket prices even for fans is just crazy, man. Like, I mean, hell, and I know this is not anything near what I'm into, but I mean, look at a Taylor Swift concert ticket. I mean, good fucking God, man.
Oh my god, man. Jesus Christ. Yeah. That's just oh, I mean, nope, not for me, man. Like I love it. You know, good for her, dude. Seriously, good for her. She took, you know, throughout when she came out as a little country girl to where she is now. Kudos to her. I mean, kudos to any artist who can pull that off, because that shit is tough. And I mean, she's weathered the storm through all the bullshit, you know, and a lot of bands don't make it, you know, as long as she's done it. So kudos to her. Kudos to bands like Metallica. You know, shit on them if you want. But dude, look how long they've fucking been together. I mean, you've had the main three forever.
Metallica and Megadeth were two of my first. Megadeth is actually my all-time favorite metal band. So I mean, you know, the
Oh,
fact that
dude,
Dave is still out there doing his thing, I'm super impressed. Same with Metallica too. I mean, they're just, whether you like them or hate them, they're out there. Same thing with Slayer. I mean, you know, grew up on all those guys. So I guess
oh yeah,
a more relevant band maybe to metal, kind of like a Taylor Swift, might be Sleep Token, and how big they've gotten lately in their ticket prices too. I mean, you know, they sell out in 60 seconds. I mean, come on, dude. Like, that's huge.
that's
Whether you like it or
insane.
hate they are what they are. So, you know.
They kind of also have that. Well, they did have that veil of anonymity, kind of like what Cultus uses and everything. What do you think of the bullshit that went down a few weeks ago with that, man? One of the members being doxxed. That's
Yeah,
fucked up.
that was pretty fucked up. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, here's the problem, you know, and I blame a lot of issues on social media nowadays. I mean, you create this world where you're the boss, basically. If somebody doesn't agree with you, block them, you know? And I think that there's people out there that can't just leave things alone. You know what I'm saying? I think that, okay, we've got so many people that love Sleep Token. Nobody knows who they are. Well, guess what? I found out who they are, and here's what I have. Just to be dicks, man. And that's social media in a nutshell nowadays. It's so negative all the time, and I think that, you're gonna continue to I mean, shit like that happens. I mean, dude, somebody made an AI nude photo of Taylor Swift and put it out on the internet. I mean, and people were going nuts thinking it was like legit her, and it wasn't. I mean, as technology moves on, I think you're going to see more and more of that. And I don't feel like there's any anonymity nowadays. And if you try to be anonymous, eh, people are going to find out. It is what it is. I mean, look at Slipknot. Do you call any of them by their numbers anymore? Absolutely not. It's
No.
you Corey Taylor, Sean Crane, all those guys, and I think at some point Sleep Token, would have had to give it up anyway, but putting out people's personal information, like, come on, dude, like that's just crap. So
Oh yeah, I remember. I was talking with a buddy of mine. And he was talking about crazed fans, and I was talking about the first time that I had worked a show. Because outside of doing this, I'm also a professional concert photographer and photojournalist. And my first ever show was working with Ginger, Suicide Silence, and All Hail the Yeti. Right, first ever show. I'd never photographed a show a day in my life. I was doing this for my college portfolio, so like I had no clue what the fuck I was doing. And
that's
so I was up.
start
Oh,
with for sure.
oh, oh yeah, dude. And shout out to my buddy Brad of Minus Head Records, who works with All Hail the Yeti. Shout out to him. And my buddy Manny Ramirez, who is no longer with us, rest in peace. He was a very, very big part of the Soulfly tribe. To the point where Max actually, upon his passing, made a personal video and put it on the tribe's website and everything in honor of Manny. But he introduced me to Brad and got me onto this show. And I didn't know about the 3-song rule, right? So young kid that I am, I was up there. I think it was like song number 5 or 6 for Suicide Silence, and their TM runs up on me just out of the blue. I just see this woman there, with her with her iPhone out taking photos. I'm like, all right, so I kind of slide up to her with my camera, like, hey man, how you doing? What's up? And she's like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, I looked down at my camera, I looked at my pass. I'm like, I'm supposed to be here. I'm doing photos. She's like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, I'm taking photos. Like, what do you mean? She's like, bro, you ain't supposed to be up here. How the fuck did you get up here? I was like, I have this. And she's like, no, man, 3 songs. I'm like, 3 songs?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, bro, you're only supposed to be up here for 3 fucking songs. I was like, oh shit. She's like, you need to get the fuck out of here. So I like tried to climb. You've been to the intersection in Grand Rapids, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so like how they have like they have like the little VIP area with like the little like tables and shit. And then they have like the area all the way over here by the exit door. Well, I tried to get off on the VIP section because she scared the shit out of me, right? Like, oh man, I'm gonna get canned, already. And so I tried climbing up. She was like, no, go that way. So I went that way, and then I found out later on in the night that someone else had gotten in and had snuck back into Tati's dressing room. Tatiana's dressing, and I was like, oh shit, that explains that. And I found out from old boy that a few weeks earlier in Orlando, someone else had gotten back into the dressing room and had to be tackled by the crew. So I was like, okay, that makes sense.
When you're first starting out with things, I mean, I remember our first tour, I guess. Cultus is a band that shouldn't be, because Cultus formed right before COVID, and then I think we did like 3 or 4 shows, and then for 2 years nothing. But we made music videos. We kept busy. But our first big tour was Head PE, and we went out with
Nice.
Head PE, Dropout Kings, and we learned a lot of things on that tour. I'll just say, Head PE, they're super fucking cool. Everybody's chill, lay back. Very easy to get along with. There's not much that you can really fuck up that they get mad about. I mean, we just kind of minded our business, did our thing, did that. But then we went on the Overkill and Prong tour, and that was a whole different monster. We learned pretty quick what a big boy tour is about, and that's not saying Head PE and Dropout are not big, because they're huge in our eyes and in the fans' eyes. But when you take that next step up, playing bigger venues, more rules, you learn things on the fly for sure. We got reprimanded a couple of times, so I get it, man. Especially when you're first starting out on something, you don't know all the rules. Like who fucking knew there was you can only photograph for 3 songs.
I had no idea, man. Like that was the thing, like I had no idea that was, how it was. And that's just one of the rules. Like that's the rules that the photographers have to follow. I can only imagine what the crew has to follow,
Oh yeah,
and because yeah, I remember seeing you guys on the tour with Head PE, and all that, because I've been following Legion since Motorgrader. Like
sure.
I've been a fan of Legion for forever.
We won't talk
Um,
band. So
no, I'm not bringing up more than that, but I've been a fan of his for a while, and I knew instantly as soon as I heard Cultus Black, I was like, who are these guys? And I heard his vocals, I was like, love him. I know exactly who this is. Yes.
you can put two and two together. He still has a similar style body paint too, but he's mixed it up, a
I
lot.
like it. I like it. I like the symbols that he uses
Yeah.
and whatnot, like, so I do dig that. I dig the paint. I dig the interaction that the band has with the crowd, because I photographed obviously I photographed you guys at not Louder Than Life, Michigan Metal Fest.
Yeah.
It's my background photo, actually, is Legion reaching out towards the crowd. I absolutely love that. I love bands that interact with the crowd. And it doesn't matter how big you are or how small you are, interact with your fans, because you know what? They will remember that. They will remember that you took the time out of your day to interact with them. That makes
I
them
mean,
feel special.
I remember as a teenager, going to see these bands and they would come out and talk to people, and I just thought it was so fucking cool. Like, oh man, I got to fucking meet Fear Factory and all these guys, and I was just like in awe. And being young, then I'm seeing all these guys wearing like all black with like cool tattoos and fucking chains and shit, and I'm like, I want to grow up and be that guy. Yeah. And now we are those guys, and I'm hoping that there's somebody out there that's like, I want to be like that dude when I grow up. Because I mean, here's the thing. Back to what you said about the bands coming out to me, Coldest will come out to the table after every show, and I think that that's huge. When we were on the Overkill Prong tour, we were outselling Prong, several nights in merch, just because the guys would come out and socially interact with everybody, and draw the crowd back to the table. And I mean, Prong never came out. I mean, Overkill's not going to come out either. They're huge, but but then Prong started coming out to the table, and then they noticed that their sales picked up a little bit. But yeah, that's always important to me. The guys in Nirvana, they do that too. Tracking the Fall, they'll come. Every band that I work with. I also work with the Fifth. I'm their drum tech sometimes whenever they're out and about. But all the bands that I work with come out of the table. I don't feel like I really want to work with a band that doesn't have that ability to come out to the table. Even if I was doing like drum tech work or whatever, a lot of times, when you get to that point, where you're so big you can't come out to the merch table, kind of loses its attraction to me. I prefer. I would much rather do like big clubs, big theaters than stadiums and festivals and all that. Which, by the way, Cultus is doing like a million of them this year. So I'm gonna be at all the festivals, chilling in the heat, I'm sure. So
Oh, you'll definitely catch me at least the Michigan Metal Fest. I will definitely have to pop by and say hi and grab a few photos and stuff.
oh,
Actually,
that
I
line
have
this year is fabulous. Oh man, you
that's
put a you put a
yeah.
bunch of junk on your wall. I like the Static X, but the other one I'm not so sure about.
I actually got that. during the same tour at your guys' stop, the one stop you were not at. That
But
was
you saw me
actually
at Michigan Metal Fest,
I did.
so
I did see it Michigan Metal Fest. That is very true. So my disappointment was was thrown out the window, I guess. I was trying to think of
everybody
the word
the
assuaged, assuaged. I
they
don't
come
know.
to see the Merch King, not the band, so you know how that goes. But
Oh yeah,
definitely a huge shout out to Steve Maple for putting all that stuff together, man. His band Kill Crown's pretty fucking good too. So
oh
um,
yeah,
he's got a killer lineup this year for Michigan Metal Fest. If people haven't seen it, check it out for sure. I'm super excited. So
oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm gonna be interviewing him here soon, so I'm definitely gonna let him know that you say what's up and that you give him the love. Cause yeah,
dude,
man. I mean,
Steve Maple is funny. Super cool guy, man. I was being a little bit of a prima donna at the Raven Black show that we did. What's the venue that they use a lot?
Music
Uh,
Factory.
yeah, yeah. I was kind of being like hangry and tired, and Steve was like helping me out, and like afterwards, I was just like, oh my god, dude, like you saved my life. Like everybody was being a dick that day, and I was just trying to get a cart and a place to set up my merch, and he helped me out, and was super super cool about it. Even though he had like umpteen trillion other things he was trying to do. So,
Oh
but yeah,
yeah.
he was super cool guy. I like his music. I like his band. So. Super excited to hang out with them again. I'm sure we'll see them doing tours and stuff at some point too. I'm assuming so.
I'm hoping so, man. I mean, they definitely have the talent and I mean, definitely put in the work for it, and that again goes with, the whole small bands thing. A lot of the smaller bands I think put out a lot more effort into
Sure.
their music and what they do.
Mhm.
Because for them, it's not just about fame and publicity. I think it's about their passion for the art of creating music. And that venue, the Music Factory, which was Planet Rock, has been around forever. I mean, you've seen the names in there. I've seen your guys' name in there, and I mean, like some legends have come through that place. It's definitely packed with personality. Um, and it's very personal. It's one of those very personal venues. Like
I
where the artist, interacts with the fans, and you can just kind of sit down at a table, have a beer with a fan or something, and yeah,
My
I like
favorite
that.
venue, honestly. That one and King of Clubs is my all-time favorite in Ohio. That's an amazing venue. If you ever get a chance to go to King of Clubs, definitely check it out for sure. So I know it's a little bit further east, but I mean we've been there several times. I've been there actually with 3 bands at this point. So, but I love being there every single time. So, and Music Factory too for sure is a good one. A lot of good venues out there. So,
There are. So if there's one venue that you could play that you've never played, what venue would that be?
oh, Jesus Christ. Somewhere in Memphis, Tennessee, honestly. That's my hometown. And I think that if I were playing, I would be all about that show. Because I mean, I grew up there. I lived there till I was about 24 maybe, and then moved to Nashville and then all over the goddamn place. But I think a venue in Memphis. I don't even know what's in Memphis anymore, but just to do a venue there, I think I would enjoy that. And I know there's so many out there like these legendary venues, and honestly, I've been to some of those legendary venues, and they're not as awesome as some of these He's it's just that they're legendary, so, you just have that clout because of the name, but when it comes to amenities and how easy things flow, I've seen a lot better venues than some of these old school legendary ones, so
See, I'd love to go to like the Rainbow Room or something like that. The Viper, just just they're legendary. Like things like
we're
that would be.
we're gonna
Hmm?
be at the Whiskey, on the Comic Rise tour, so, I mean, that's a big one, I think, so
Oh, dude, I'm really stoked for that. The lineup for that is killer, and the dates are really good. I don't know if I'm gonna catch you guys in Chicago. I know that tour is coming through Chicago, which would be cool to definitely see. Combo Christ is a favorite of mine. I'm a huge fan of them, especially since they did the Devil May Cry soundtrack, which was badass. By the way,
I've
I
been
don't.
since about '04, '05 ish. So
Oh, you
long.
definitely got me beat.
I mean, that's kind of giving away my age here, but I mean, I'm getting on up there. So I'm old
You
school.
can't be called the Merch King and not have been around for a minute there, bud.
I mean, you've got to earn that crown somewhere. So
I mean, you do. If you guys could play any horror convention, which one would it be? I mean, that's right up your guys' alley, like it is aesthetically.
it would have to be one probably in Los Angeles. Like some of these horror conventions are really big. Like I go to Days of the Dead in Atlanta. That would be a fun one to do because they're very open to music. Days of the Dead also does like a Chicago show. They do I think they're branching out into like Indianapolis and some other places too. But Spooky Empire is a good one that's down in Florida. I mean, just my problem is there's so many conventions and only enough money in my pocket, for for one or two per year. So, but I mean, Coldest would fit in great. I've actually pitched to a couple of them, but you know, eh, places nowadays are kind of um, hesitant to bring in bands that don't appeal to all genres. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, they want like a Metallica tribute band or something like that, rather than Cold as Black up there just being all crazy and shit. So, and I get
I
it. I mean, you want people across the board to go, but I think that's kind of boring to me. But whatever.
no, I 100% agree with that. I would rather have a band up there with some originality rather than just, again, the copy and paste band. So yeah, I definitely understand that. I have a buddy who works in the horror industry. He does artwork and whatnot. I know he did some of the posters for the first Endless Night Vampires Ball in Nolans for Anne Rice back in the day.
That's
Um, yeah, his last name is Savage actually, which is really cool. But he makes some really bad. Oh, dude, dude, him and his wife are badass. I love them. I love the Savages. They've been around forever. They were friends with Anne Rice. Rest in peace, Anne.
that's
She is a legend. Legend. Love Anne Rice. So, like he got to do artwork for that. He does a lot of artwork for like horror cons and stuff like that. Goes to a lot of horror cons and
nice.
everything. And I was seeing pictures of his house recently, and he has one of the original candelabras from the Haunted Mansion,
Oh,
like the
nice.
original
Right,
Haunted
right.
Mansion, not
Yeah.
not the remake. I'm like, dude, that is so cool. And he has it hanging on, in his house. He's all about Cthulhu. The only person I've ever seen with a fully decked out Cthulhu bathroom,
Nice.
fully decked out, just all Cthulhu. I'm like, dude, that
I'm
is so cool.
I'm a huge Cthulhu fan. Like that's H.P. Lovecraft. It's racist and whatnot, but you know, separate the art from the artist, I guess. But he's the father of horror for all intents and purposes, and
Yeah.
his stories like Call of Cthulhu, Dagon, stuff like that, just inspired so many horror people. You know, over the many years that horror has been put out. So yeah, 100% big Cthulhu fan for sure.
I think they're actually making a movie about Cthulhu, and I'm still waiting for the Rick and Morty episode where they actually show Cthulhu, because in the intro they have the Cthulhu monster chasing them, and they've never
Wasn't
shown
that
that episode.
wasn't that in season 1 or 2?
Nope, never fought the giant Cthulhu monster. Nope, it
Interesting.
just shows them kidnapping the baby in the intro, and that's it, which
Have you
kind of
ever
disappoints me.
have you ever seen Underwater, the movie Underwater?
I have not. Who's it by? Like, who's the director?
You had to
If you
ask me.
don't know, that's cool.
I don't remember, but it's got Kristen Stewart in it. I'm not a big fan of Kristen Stewart, but if you love H.P. Lovecraft, it was a very slept on movie. It's called Underwater, with Kristen Stewart. I think it was on HBO last time I checked, but I could be wrong. But I won't ruin it for you, but it's very H.P. Lovecraft-ish, and at the end is a huge surprise ending if you love H.P. Lovecraft stuff. So Underwater, check it out. It's a must.
I will definitely have to do that. I am always on the search for new movies. That, being self-employed and everything, a lot of what I do is at home, so I have a lot of free time. I have a lot of free time to just, kind of sit around and play on my phone and, watch movies and stuff. So I'm always on the hunt. I like to watch movies from Shudder. I like to watch the old school Elvira movies and stuff, because who doesn't love Elvira? The
I
Mistress of
yeah,
Darkness.
I do the horror movies, and then I have my guilty pleasures, like what's the gold mining show, Gold Rush. I like that one. Where they where they fucking mine for gold on every episode up in Alaska or some shit, and I'm just fascinated by that show for some reason. Like
Oh,
I could tell you which bulldozers and fucking tractors and shit they it's so but yeah,
gold.
that and horror movies I watch like all the time. So
You talk about gold mining, man. That instantly brought to mind Deadwood. Don't know if you. It was a drama, a Western drama series that was made by HBO back in the early 2000s with Ian McShane in it. And I want to say Timothy Oliphant was in it as well at some point. Now don't quote me on that last one, but I do know for a fact Ian McShane is in it, and it is a phenomenal show. Um, built
we'll
around a gold mining town. And
check
the
yeah.
yeah, definitely check it out. Definitely check that out if you're into, like, that kind. I'm a huge history buff. I love history because history tends to repeat itself in one form or another. So it's good to study history, you know. And so yeah, I love history. Hence one of the reasons I love the band Ex Dio. Don't know if you've ever heard of them, but made up from members of Cataclysm. Um, and they have songs about the ancient Roman Empire. So they have songs about Caligula. They have songs about Germanicus and shit like that. It's really cool. Like, I love their music, very orchestral, but still very heavy. And I like that kind of mix of orchestrations with, electronic or electric guitars and shit like that. Kind of like how Dimmu Borgir does their music.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
know, I love that type of stuff, because it just adds so much ambiance to it, it just fills it up. You don't really have any negative space, you know, uh, you know, auditorially. I don't know. Maybe I made up a word. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying. It's just it works. It just works.
You
And
just you can go see Guar. I mean, that's an experience in itself. So
I saw Guar in 2015 at the Warp Tour, and I was second row for that. It was right. It was like a year or two after Dave passed. Rest in power, Dave. Um, so that was fun. And me and this short little girl and her boyfriend, we were all talking because we were super excited because we'd never seen Guar. Right. And so we're like, oh my God, we get to see Guar, we're gonna get totally sprayed. And this girl's like 4'11", right? Just little college girl, so I'm short as shit. I'm only like 5'6", but even I towered over this person. And she just kept jumping up and down. Like, oh, spray me. So dude turns around and sprays her after they disemboweled Trump for like a minute and a half, just with Guar blood. For like a minute and a half, just drown her. And I'm just getting sprayed all over. And it was just the most wild like set I've ever seen, from a band, just because of all the theatrics with it. Like, I've seen a lot of theatrical bands, but none were as immersive as Guar. If you guys have a chance to catch Guar, do it, because it
Guar's
will
an
not
experience.
disappoint.
I've seen them about 11 times total, and one
Have
of
you
the
been to
times,
the Guar bar? Please tell me you've been to the
yes,
Guar bar.
actually, me and me and my buddy went for his birthday. We just happened to be up in Richmond. Where were we at? We were at the Virginia Death Fest, I believe. But yeah, Guar Bar was amazing. I one of the times I went and saw Guar, we got to go hang out with them. This was Dave Brocky was, still in the band, still alive. This was many years ago. If I were to guess, it was probably about must have been like 96 or something like that, 97 maybe. And we were hanging out with them, and we were all sitting in a big circle just talking about bullshit, and they were upset because Marilyn Manson was getting like all this hype at the time, the Antichrist Superstar and all that stuff, and they were like, "We're so much worse than them, and we never get picketed and fucking put in magazines as evil and shit," and the whole time we're passing doobies around, just like, just pass it and hang out. It was a really cool time. They were so nice too, which is very contradictory to their stage performance. So for sure, but yeah, Guar Bar was dope, dude. That was probably one of the coolest places I've ever been. So much like really cool stuff there, and they got great fucking barbecue too. So if you're ever in
Gotta
Richmond, go.
love, gotta love good barbecue, man. My buddy, he used to live down in Tempe, Arizona, and he used to work for the Marquee Theater. You probably know of the Marquee. He used to work there, and he's known as Barbecue Bob. Shout out to Barbecue Bob and Blacktooth Barbecue. He used to cater to all the stars that came through there. So, like the 98 KUPD, like radio station festivals that they used to have with like Stone Sour and Slipknot and Seven Dust and all that shit. And he used to do barbecue there, man. And like that's one thing that I've discovered bands absolutely love on the road is
Dude,
authentic barbecue.
dude, we stopped. What tour were we on? We were on the Overkill Prong tour, and one of the crew members had bought. We were back in North Carolina, getting ready to head down to Florida, but this particular show, one of the crew members had bought like a barbecue, like fucking spread around this whole room, and all it took was just one person mentioning food, and Coldest Black was like fucking just grubbing this shit up. I'm talking like we were so goddamn hungry because our bus was like that time we took an RV, and our refrigerator was fucked. Like we didn't have electricity, so I mean, when we were stopping at truck stops, we were snagging food and stuff, which we had all this food in the fridge that went bad. But dude, barbecue, we were like fucking vampire, like shunned from the light, but we're snatching up all this barbecue like creatures, like not saying a fucking word, but yeah, you're right about that. 100% barbecue is where it's at when you're out on the road, because everything else you eat is probably hot dogs or bullshit. So
Yeah, I noticed that during Warped Tour, like I smelled it, like it just kind of permeated the air. And it was the last one I went to was in Tinley Park. So, like it's all kind of secluded anyway. So if the wind blows, you're gonna smell something. And like I smelled that barbecue. I was like, bro, they are eating so good today. And then like 10 minutes later, I see some guy get drop kick in the pit during Carnifex, and just his wig just splits just clean open. And it's like 5 minutes before his girlfriend's like, you're gonna get her. He's like, oh, I'll be fine. She walks away to go see like Mayday Parade or something, and then I just see this blur just go, and I see this guy go, and just blood everywhere. I'm like, oh shit. Awesome though, because I mean, like he went down, and everyone stopped. Oh shit. Picked him up and everything, dusted him off, and he just went back into it. I was like, that's the kind of energy I fucking like. I love that type of shit. That energy is what I live for with metal music. Just and there's no judgment in metal. Like I've noticed that. Like there is no judgment. From what I've seen in the metal community, like I don't see racism, I don't see sexism, I don't see any of that shit. I mean, you'll have your elitist, but it's not as common as what society deems it to be. We're just all giant teddy bears. We just want
most
hugs.
most of us don't put up with that shit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it and it goes back to the bands as well. I mean, unfortunately, I've seen, some bands act like bigger dickheads than any fans that I've ever met in my entire life. I mean, I won't name names, but I have been on tour, and trust me, it wasn't Cultus or any of the guys that I work for, because I don't work for people that are prima donnas or bullshit like that, or liars or anything. I don't surround myself with that type of people, but you know, there are bands out there that the metal scene supports them really big, and they're not the greatest of people. So
I might have an inkling. I might have an inkling. I do know for a fact there are a couple musical individuals out
yeah,
there who are kind of larger than life that people still mm, kind of worship. I guess I don't really know how else to put it. They hold them on a pedestal.
mm,
Um, and I mean, I guess you can like the music and not like the artist. Like that is still very true. You know, a- an example before we started today, I was listening to 90s and early 2000s pop and R&B music. And one of the biggest names that popped up in that has been in the tabloids recently was R. Kelly.
yeah.
And the song Ignition. I love the song Ignition, but I can't stand the individual who sang said song. It's just
Funny,
it's
funny
one of those
story about R. Kelly. I was at a convention in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is where we all live at, and I was in a hotel lobby at the convention, and R. Kelly was in the hotel lobby arguing with people that worked there because he wanted to smoke a cigar in the lobby, and it was one of those, "Don't you know who I am?" and blah 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 blah. Like, but yeah, just funny story being around R. Kelly. I just saw him being a douchebag, and he had a female with him that wasn't quite on the up and up. She seemed a little prostitutish, if you want to say that.
Ooh, a creature of the night. Okay. I can already. I definitely don't put it past him. In that, kind of
I
yeah,
didn't see
I
a little
don't put that past him.
so I can't speak to that, but I did see a questionable female. So
So stories from the road. I know you have them. I know what are some of the most memorable things that have happened to you on the road?
oh my god. Um,
Because that's what we all want to really know. I mean, that's
I mean, honestly, there's nothing really, like, debaucherous that goes on. I mean, there's tons of really cool things and tons of really shitty things that happen. I mean, driving through snowstorms with no windshield wipers, that's never fun. I mean, but we've done it.
sounds
Touring.
terrifying.
Right. Touring with some of the bands that we grew up listening to and seeing people that we kinda idolize is fun, and sometimes when you meet them in person, they're not so great. So, um, yeah, I don't feel like there's been anything, like, defining that I can tell you just this ridiculous ass story, and plus, there are some I could tell you, but be ratting out a couple of people on some stuff they ought not have been doing, and I don't really want that put out into the world.
That's fair. That don't say anything that's going to get your ass in trouble. I don't want to get you in trouble. You know,
Exactly. I could say, and don't get me wrong, like, all the guys in Cultus are super honest. They're really awesome guys. But, once in a while, somebody has a little too much to drink, or there's a lot of stories of me, being out on the road. The guys are drunk, acting a fool, and it's time to get in the van because I have to drive 5 hours, and it's 2 in the morning, and they don't want to get in the van. So we're in bumfuck fucking Illinois somewhere, and the motherfuckers challenging me, and it didn't go so well. I'll put it that way. So those kind
I,
of stories are kind of you know, peppered in here and there, but nothing. Most of I mean, we don't have like, debaucherous orgies and fuck with all kinds of females. I mean, most of the guys in Cultus, have girlfriends long term. We kind of want to keep it that way. You know what I'm saying? And trust me, it's out there if you want it. I mean, you got groupies, you got people that just want to be a part of something, and unfortunately, sometimes, they use their physicalities to try to get into that club, but typically we're pretty good about not going for that kind of thing. I
That's
mean,
that's that's fair.
95% of being on the road is just driving. I mean, oh, hey, look, another cornfield. That's some pretty corn. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a nice boulder, shit like
That definitely sounds about right, man. And yes, to all the people who are watching this, no, a lot of bands do not get into debaucherous situations. Most of us are too fucking tired at the end of the show to want to do anything like that.
I mean,
Just
here's the
saying.
deal with cultists, most everybody has paint on and they're ready to get that shit off. And we like to have fun, but like I said, being on tour, it's 95% just driving to the next fucking destination and then going and doing a killer show, meeting some new people. We've met some really cool people out on the road. People that we hold in high regards and, continue to meet probably some of the coolest people I can say that I've met ever. You know, because then that's cool. That's what's cool about the metal community is that most people you know, are pretty nice and, they want to help you out. And, if you need a place to stay, they let the band come stay with them or, something like that. A lot of people have opened their homes to us. We've seen some really cool, kick-ass people stay at their house. They made us food. I mean, that's constantly on tour, and that's what I love about the community is that and being out on the road is you get to interact with all these people. I think that's the most exciting thing about being out on the road. And like I said, it's constantly um, stimulation. Like there's constantly something in your face, in your face, in your face, in your face. Whether it be people, whether it be the other bands, whether it be y- any number of things. There's always just constantly something, 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 something. Coming at you. So, um, like I said, most of it's driving though. So.
How do you deal with that? Like I know after a while that can become almost overwhelming for you or the band, the day in, the day out, the constant throng of people, the constant throng of, stage managers, tour managers, venue owners, things like that. And then of course you have your unexpected hiccups on the road, blown tire, as you said, no wipers in the middle of a snowstorm, that kind of stuff.
Our
Um,
brakes, that's a pretty funny story, but not really. So that was our brakes epically failed going down a hill in the mountains, and
oh
we
shit.
fly off into a parking lot. That's an interesting um on the road story. I think we posted about it on the Cultist Facebook page, but yeah, as far as like the constant, just everything in your face, I mean, we're pretty good about communicating with each other and saying like, "Yo, I need to go take a break for a minute," and we can go hide in the van, we can hide backstage, we can, go out back, smoke, do whatever we want to get away from it for a minute if we need to, and it's not as hard as you think because the backstage area is pretty secure. You know what I'm saying? There's not a lot of people just wandering around back there for no reason. Even their VIP stuff when you have big bands like Static X or any of those guys doing their VIP thing, it's usually far away from where you can relax at. A lot of places have common rooms, green rooms, stuff like that where you can just hang out if you need to. uh,
What's the nicest green room you've ever been in? I know I was talking to one guy and he was like, I've been in some places that have showers for us, like venues that have showers for us. I'm like,
oh yeah, we've had that before. Nicest green room I've ever been in, don't quote me on this, but I feel like it was this venue. maybe it was in Indiana. I would really have to go back and look. It was on the Static X tour. We had a green room that had video games, couches, weightlifting. If you go down the hall and take a right, there's like a half basketball court. If you take a left going the other way and go down, there's a giant room with food and water and all kinds of stuff. I mean, they really thought about, you know, how they were going to treat their guests and whatnot at these venues, at that one especially. So that's
I
probably
think
the night.
I think venues need to listen to that. How you
Oh,
treat your artist.
that's
Don't
why
stick them in a corner. I know venues that have stuck bands in corners. I'm like, come on. They're
we
bringing you money, man.
we've been that band in the corner before. I think everybody has at some point. So
That's how you
a
cut your
lot
teeth.
a lot of times I think the breakdown with venues, in my opinion, is they don't promote the shows. They don't promote themselves. They don't. You'll have these venues, and it doesn't happen as much on like the bigger tours where you're doing like House of Blues and Live Nation stuff, but some of the smaller venues, you know, they don't promote themselves and they don't promote the bands that are coming, and then they wonder why they have low attendance. And I mean, there was this really fucking nice venue on the Raven Black tour that we did back in October. Fantastic venue. I mean, it had its issues, but I mean, as far as I was concerned, the venue was amazing, but there was like 10 people there and no promotion whatsoever. And I mean, that happens from time to time, but it's not just the bands, you know, it's
Right.
not just us that are supposed to promote it, it's the venue as well. And I think that's a lot of the miscommunication with their stuff. I mean, I used to own two comic book stores here in North Carolina, and my whole thing was never skimp on promotion. Like I always had a marketing budget every month to run ads, to do whatever I wanted to with it, and it worked. I mean, I used to have celebrities come out to my store and they had guarantees where if they didn't make their guarantee, I was on the hook for the remainder. And when you have a guest that's like $20,000, I'm not gonna skimp on advertisement for this fucking show because I
Right.
I want him to make his 20 grand because I don't want to have to pay it. And never once did I ever have to pay, somebody's guarantee. And I think that's where a lot of venues, I mean, you see venues closing down almost every single day. And, when you go to their pages, it's just kind of like, what did you do to help this situation? It looks like you didn't do anything. You just expected the community to just flock to your venue for, whatever show you were doing. You post about it. So the show's in April, you post about it one time in January and don't hear about it, or you make an event page and just hope that, people share it or whatever. I mean, promote that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Especially
Man.
if you have a band coming through that's going to cost you a lot of money to be there. Because I mean, when you have Static X or an Overkill uh, package like that, I mean that's expensive for a venue. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to pay the band. I mean that's
Yeah.
all there is to it. So
Oh
if
yeah.
you're not promoting that and you're just hoping that people are just gonna show up, then you're shooting yourself in the foot. I think that's the biggest problem with venues nowadays. It's not even about you know um, what is and isn't readily available at a venue, or even really how they treat people. Because I've been to venues where the owners treat us like crap, but the rest of the staff was awesome. And I can't necessarily say I had a bad experience at that venue because the owner was a douchebag. As long as the staff's cool. But I think that's one of the big breakdowns for venues nowadays. And then they complain, oh, we don't have the support of the community. It's like, what are you doing?
Right? No, I definitely agree with that. You definitely need to venues definitely need to promote more as well. It can't just be on the bands and on the fans. It's a group effort, it's a team effort because you guys playing generates them revenue, right? So like they need to be promoting that shit too And it's cool that you brought up that you own comic book shops, man. I'm a giant nerd. I grew up in the 90s, so I had like I want to say the golden days of comics, like the heyday, because you had the introduction of Image, and Dark Horse was really starting to take off. Top Cow was taking off.
Oh yeah.
You had like all these awesome comic book heroes and anti-heroes and villains that were coming out. It was right after my favorite villain of all time will always be the Dark Phoenix. I
Oh
will
yeah.
always love Jean Grey as the Dark Phoenix. I own the original, comic book run. I've owned all of the movies, even that shitty X-Men Last Stand.
That's
Ah,
the good Chris Claremont stories from back in the 60s, 70s, or what was he? He was more in 70s, 80s kind of guy, but he wrote all the really good X-Men stuff. I started out as a Spider-Man and X-Men kind of guy, but I got into as I got older and a little bit more, you know, moodier teenage years, I got into Batman and, some of the dark stuff like Spawn, like that was really cool to me. I remember the Batman Spawn team up was really dope. Like,
they just did one of those. Uh they actually came out with it. I know it was rumored to be having been done in the 90s, but they had to scrap it. And so that actually just came out, which was really cool because I love the Todd father, McFarlane, the Todd father. Love that guy. I love Greg Capullo and all of them.
oh, his Spawn covers, Greg Capullo's Spawn covers. Oh my god, those are amazing. Like I
Right?
some of those just for the cover art, like not even to complete story arcs or whatever. But some of his work is just fantastic. I love it.
Well, that's like he was one of the founders of Image, if I'm not mistaken. It was Capullo, McFarlane,
It was
Lee.
McFarlane, Jim Lee. You had Rob Liefeld.
Yep, Liefeld.
Couple other guys all up in that mix too. Jim Lee's artwork, god damn, I would love to own a Jim Lee original for sure, but you're talking thousands of dollars, and that's a little bit out of my budget. So
Oh man, I think that's out of most people's budgets, but we could dream, right? I mean,
I've got a
dude,
Spawn for one in my personal collection signed by McFarlane.
that's
Just because
epic.
I I mean, Spawn number one, if you think about it, Todd McFarlane back in the day when he came up with Spawn, he said, I want to put a Spawn number one in every household in the world. And he damn near did it because it sold millions and millions and millions of copies. And, where in the 90s, you were doing really good if you had a book you were working on that was doing, you know, couple 100,000 issues per, sold to comic book stores or whatever. But when Tom McFarlane got into it and got Spawn going, dude, he was 2-3 million, like, per issue, and it was just insane. Unfortunately, it flooded the market and made those books, not as valuable as they should be. Like Spawn number one should, in my opinion, be $150 book at least, but you can get them for like $20. Other than like the newsstand edition that has like the barcode on it, and those are rare apparently. I think those were either subscriptions or newsstand copies, I guess. So
I want to get involved in his Kickstarters. I don't know if you've paid attention to some of the Kickstarters that he's done, but his figures, his Kickstarter figures are
didn't
so cool.
he did that Kickstarter of that iconic Batman cover, and I regret not getting in on that because I saw one in person. Was like, fuck, like that is cool to me. That's another thing that I collect too. Is I'll see if I can pan around and show you. I collect action figures, so
Same
you'll
here.
have to excuse my office because it's really messy. But I mean, you've got like G.I. Joes.
Yo, Joe.
I got Transformers. I got Turtles. Lots of Transformers on the shelf. So
Hell yeah, man.
some Rick and Morty up there. I don't know what all you can see right now, but
Oh yeah, I can see most of it.
I got
Yeah,
my
dude, that's epic.
Marvel Legends guys, Hellboy,
I see
uh,
Wolverine,
and then I got my
Juggernaut.
Then I got my oddities coffin cabinet here with some stuff in it, signed stuff, Star
Star
Wars on
Wars.
my
Oh yeah,
bed.
dude.
I've just
I'm
got like piles and piles of stuff in my office that's just chilling right now.
but that's so cool, man. I'm a collector of figurines myself. I collect a lot of the multiverse, the McFarlane multiverse figures.
Those are
I
great.
also I collect a lot of the Play Kai arts.
Oh,
Um
super
so I
dope.
have like I have Cloud Strife with his fuck, with his motorcycle. I'm trying to remember the name of it off the top of my head. But it's from the Advent Children movie. They came out in 2007. So I have like Cloud with this Buster Blade, and it has Fenrir. That's the name of his bike. His Fenrir and all that, in interchangeable head and hands and shit. And I collect, like limited Funkos, like San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Dark Phoenix Jean Grey and stuff like that. I just love, because the 90s is where it was at. My favorite run of series from Marvel is the original Infinity Gauntlet, the
Oh,
original,
100%.
which was
George Perez,
completely,
all that.
yeah.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
And I own a lot of this is a comic book that falls under the radar a lot because it was very adult oriented. Lady Death. I own a lot of limited Lady Death prints, including a lot of her pinup poster editions and stuff like that, which actually go for a lot of money now. If you find like the right ones, like the holographic editions and stuff like that, are just insane. So you have like the Vampirellas, you have the Lady Deaths, you have the Witchblade, which was made by Top Cow and then turned into an anime and a TV series.
I have a
Um,
buddy of mine. He was the artist for Vampirella, and he did some Lady Death stuff. I think he worked on a lot of those pinups. He lives actually not too far from here. Back when I had the comic book stores, I had all kinds of artists and writers and stuff out to my shop. Just met so many cool people in the comic industry over the years, going to comic shows and stuff like that. Like I've met like Jim Lee, McFarlane, all those big name guys too. And some of my favorite of all time is Mark Bagley. Actually, he worked on Spider-Man in the late '80s, early '90s. He was the guy that made Spider-Man look like what we know Spider-Man as, today. It was used in the original Spider-Man, kind of his look a little bit. So I mean, in the '90s when they were mass producing all these things like cups, fucking blankets and shit, that's all Bagley artwork. So and I think I've got something of his on the wall over here too. Yeah. I don't know if you can see it or not, but let's see where's
yep,
that. That's it right there.
yeah, and it
Yeah.
has Spawn 2099 on there too, which was McFarlane,
No, that's
wasn't
Spider-Man.
it?
That's
Yeah, I was
Miguel.
gonna say that was. Oh, that wasn't McFarlane. I thought McFarlane was the one who had a hand in the making of Spawn 2099 due to the similarities in his Spawn characters.
That was all Bagley. Scott Hanley
Really,
did that stuff. Yeah.
that's
Spider-Man
badass.
is one of my favorites, as is Batman Beyond, like Terry McGinnis. Like I really like
Yes,
Terry McGinnis stuff. He's one of my favorites. I think I like him maybe more than Bruce Wayne, honestly.
really.
I
I
mean,
mean,
you got
I could see it. I mean,
you got
it's very
Bruce
tight.
teaching him, and he's got this tech suit, Bruce designed, but there's only so much you can do with Bruce Wayne to a point before people figure out who he is, which
He's had a good run. He had a good run. I will give him that. I never missed an episode of Batman Beyond as it aired.
I'm
Actually, I
waiting for that movie, man. That's one of my all-time wish list movies is a Batman Beyond, and I think we're gonna get it at some point. So
hopefully, man, Batman Beyond and the new Spawn movie whenever it comes out. Like I'm I still play Spawn Armageddon. Like if that says anything, like I still play Spawn Armageddon for my GameCube. Like come on. I love
yeah,
Spawn. Or the Game Boy game.
right. They said that Blumhouse was attached to make the Spawn movie, and Jamie Foxx, of course, was going to be in it. And I watch McFarlane, on social media and stuff, and they're having issues, shopping the movie around and all this other kind of stuff. And I don't know if Blumhouse pulled out, but he said he's gonna get it made no matter what, even if he has to do a Kickstarter for it. So,
Oh,
uh,
if he does a Kickstarter, that thing will be funded in a heartbeat.
oh,
I mean, and they blew up again. Image blew up again because did you see the documentary called The Rise and Fall of Image?
no, I didn't know that
There,
was.
there's a documentary out there about the rise and fall of Image Comics, about how in the '90s they were bigger than Playboy. They were
Right.
huge.
I mean, Shadow.
Like
Oh man.
yeah. I mean, dude, like it was just insane the way it blew up. Supreme, I fucking love Supreme. Like he was everything that you wanted Superman to be without, any of, the Mr. Goody Two Shoes, I'm Superman. It was like, hey, you fuck around and find out, I'd rip your head off.
Yeah,
Like
like
I love that type of stuff.
Wildcats and all
Yep.
that stuff. I mean,
The wild, yeah.
Grifter ended up going into DC Comics when they bought that kind of stuff. Angela crossed over as well from Spawn. I think
Well,
she's one.
Jim Lee took his characters with him back to DC.
Mhm.
So like I get that. And I mean, since then it seems like the bad blood has kind of died away. I still haven't seen McFarlane do any work with Marvel anymore, which is understandable. I mean, they did kind of shaft him.
Bad experience with Marvel. They were editing his stuff so much that it was ridiculous, and he was just like, "Fuck it. If you're gonna edit my shit, you're gonna give me, you're gonna put me in charge of this comic book, but you're gonna edit my shit to a point where it's not even a resemblance of what I put in. Like, why not go to start your own fucking company with Image. And I think that was probably a smart move for him because now he's got Spawn. Spawn's of course his flagship title.
Oh yeah.
His
Yeah, I
main,
mean,
so
he's kind of got his hands dipped in everything. Again, I'm a huge Todd Father fan, so I own the collectibles, I own the comics, I own the video games for Spawn, and I own the games that he's dabbled into with story writing, along with R.A. Salvatore for Kingdoms of Amalur. I don't know if you played that, but it was made by R.A. Salvatore and Todd McFarlane. They wrote the story for it. It's by THQ Nordic, and it's like an action fantasy esque type game. It's like is it Darksiders? It's like Darksiders on steroids, but like very like medievally. It's cool. It's cool, because I mean like it's Todd McFarlane has something to do with it, and I think that he was a really underappreciated storyteller and artist.
McFarlane
And
favorites, and I really like Mike Mignola, who does Hellboy.
mhm.
Hellboy, of course, I've a lot of these movies that have come out over the years. Like I had read the comics, like Judge Dredd, like I was a big Judge
Oh
Dredd
yeah,
before even the Sylvester Stallone movie came out, and of course Carl Urban. But you got Spawn, you got Dredd, you got all the Hellboy, all these movie properties that were originally I mean, Watchmen even. I mean, Watchmen's probably one of the greatest comic books ever written, and I think they did a great job adapting it into movie. So I don't know
they
if you read that or not, but you should. So
I actually read the Watchmen comic, the omnibus, when I was 10.
dude, it's
Absolutely love that comic. Yes,
amazing.
so good.
I mean,
The movie
most
was good.
yeah, the movie was almost shot for shot. The comic book, it was great, except for the ending. I mean, and I get you can't really have like a giant squid,
No,
flattening New York. It made a little bit more sense for the movie for Doctor Manhattan to be the bad guy at the end. So
it made it a bit more realistic in that area. Have you seen the TV series, the
yeah,
miniseries that HBO did? That was
amazing,
really good too. That was
amazing.
yes, I love the Watchmen. I think Snyder did so good
Oh yeah,
on that movie. Like
yeah.
that is perfectly in his niche, and I love it. Like if they did more comic book movies like that, I would be more apt to watch them. I just think that Disney has oversaturated the market, and it's become they've dumbed down a lot of the stuff, like the Punisher, for
Sure.
instance. Like, dude,
It's
that
got to be a
we
hard
could
part, man. Come on.
we couldn't get away with making the Punisher now. Like it just wouldn't happen.
Yeah, you
And
got
I grew up reading the Punisher and the Moon Knight, the Moon Knight comics, which were
Moon Knight
really fucking
brutal.
bloody.
Yeah, Moon Knight was brutal as fuck, and a lot of people don't realize that. Same as the Punisher too. I mean, John Bernthal does fine as the Punisher, but I mean, you know, that that movie or TV show for Punisher should be a hard R. Like I'm talking like some of the shit you see in the Punisher comics, you're just like, whoa, like it's great, but it kind of falls through. It's funny that you mentioned that. I read an article talking about what was the reviewer's name? Was it Roger Ebert back in the day when
Yes,
when the first Iron
Roger fucking Ebert.
the first Iron Man came out, he gave it four out of 4 stars, which he rarely ever did for a lot of things, especially for a comic book movie, was
Right.
odd for him. But he said, "Hey, I really like the Tony Stark character, and I like how Robert Downey Jr. did it, but I hope that Marvel doesn't make every movie like a Tony Stark movie," and that's what they've done. And unfortunately, it's gotten kind of stale because everybody's jokey and lighthearted and stuff like that. I mean, but then you have your exceptions like I don't know if you saw Guardians 3, but that was kind of deep.
Yep,
Uh,
that
that
was
was
fucking deep.
that was a little deep in certain points, and but I mean, up until then, the Guardians had been laughing, jokey, whatnot. So. But yeah, I mean all the newer stuff that they're coming out with is a little too jokey. I mean, and don't be so super serious. Like sometimes DC gets a little too serious with it.
The
Uh,
Joker.
yeah, I mean that movie kind of fucked with my head a little bit, honestly. The Joaquin Phoenix Joker. That
That was the point, though, man. It was meant to be a psychological mind fuck.
that
That was the
was
point.
was other than the fact of like starting this revolution. Like, that movie, I feel like could actually happen to somebody, it's just a descent into madness. What was the Joker saying? "One bad day can turn anybody into me," and that was just a straight up, you know losing your fucking, mental health care and going straight down the toilet from there because you can't get your meds or, what you need to get right because there's so many, laws and bullshit going on when behind the scenes, and ultimately that's what happened to that character. He just went fucking nuts. Like, not that he wasn't kinda already there in the first place, but with all the fucked up shit that happened, I can see that, kinda happening to somebody. It has a little base in realism too, so
That movie actually reminded me very much of an instant classic that I'm sure everyone knows. At least if you're a big movie fan. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
yeah,
Jack
100%.
Nicholson.
I
Like when
could
you
I
talk about insanity and madness, you never really knew that Nicholson was mad.
Mhm.
You never really understood that, until the end when it all came to make sense and you understood that it was actually Big Chief who was telling the story. It was through his eyes. So
That's a
you didn't
great
think it was, yeah, it was the book is phenomenal. First off, it's based off a book, which is awesome. But the movie itself, you really need to sit down and pay attention to. Another one that's very similar about madness and insanity, um, and multiple personalities is Sybil. Um, the original Sybil with what's her name? Sally Field.
like I've seen. Oh, yeah, 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 I have seen that, yep, mhm,
You
100%.
want you want to talk about a great film and just great acting right there? Sybil, Sally Field. Kudos to Sally Field because not only did she kill it in Sybil, she killed it in The Coal Miner's Daughter too. Great
Another
films.
one like The Shining, Descent into Madness. That
Yep.
more supernatural push into madness, but it's still basically having cabin fever and
Yeah.
going nuts or whatnot. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, yeah, I can see a lot of that in the Joker movie. I think it won Academy Award, didn't it?
It did. Yes, it did. Yeah, it also yeah, it did. It did. It also pissed off a whole lot of people. Because it pointed out a lot of truths that people did not want to accept.
Yeah,
It tore away the veil, which is what I want to do with this podcast. I want to tear away the veil of what really goes on behind the scenes, and show everyone that it's not all glitz and glamour, that it's not all one giant party, that you're right. Most of it's spent, either time on the road or
I
that
think
was
your
weird.
poster fell down.
Yeah, my house is a little haunted. it's
It needs to be
it's
on the floor. Screw it. Screw
no.
it.
Hey, as I said, this is raw, unfiltered, straight up. This is gonna be a longer episode because I have an interview with the Merch King. So I'm gonna let everyone know that this is just for people to listen to. I mean, this is that show for the bus drivers who are trying to get from point A to point B. To do load in and load out and shit like that. That's what this is about. Talking about movies and shit really just kind of helps. What the
It's
fuck
it's
was
a
that?
it's a very thankless job. So if you're looking to get into the music industry, either behind the scenes, on the stage, whatever, it it's a lot of hard work and a lot of, stress and thankless days. I mean, you wake up, you go to bed at like 4 a.m. You wake up at 8 a.m., you drive, to the next show. You only had a few hours of sleep. You do your thing, do it all over again. I mean, it's an interesting life and it's not for everybody. I think that's why you see, honestly, a lot of these bands, rotate members out sometimes because they either get tired of being on the road or they can't handle the road because some people just can't handle it, man. I mean, it's a lot of strong-willed, sometimes um, just being outright defiant to life, pushing on, because there's plenty of days, I think all of us have woken up and been like, fuck this day, but you gotta go on like nothing's bothering you. So and
Yeah, no.
I mean
uh,
we yell at each other every once in a while. I mean, but then after that it cools down and we talk about it and I think it's important, as a crew member with, any other crew or the band or whatever, you have to kind of communicate, what's going on. You can't just snap at everybody and expect everybody to know that you're feeling shitty. So
I mean, as long as you don't end up like those members from that tour that happened last year where they just get into a giant fucking brawl in the back, don't
what
be those assholes.
what was that? That was
Don't
crazy
be
town.
those guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know what? I just thought about it. I do, I do have a story about one of my favorite places that we've been. I think it was Cultus Black's very first out of state show, and
Ooh.
I was driving. I was technically their driver at the time. I think it was the third show they had ever done, and we went down to Swainsboro, Georgia, and yeah, so we get to Swainsboro and we stay in a hotel, and we get up the next morning. We go to a gas station to get some gas and some food and stuff, and there's these two girls working the counter. They were like younger girls, and they were like, "Are you guys in a band? You guys in a band?" And you get that a lot. And we're like, "Yeah, we're going to we're playing a show tonight or whatever at the fairgrounds." And they're like, "Oh, you're playing the fairgrounds?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're playing the fairgrounds." They're like, "Oh." And I was like, I went and got in the van. I was like, "Hey guys, just a heads up. Like this was the reaction that I got when I told them we were playing at the fairgrounds." And they're like, "I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to mean, but we're headed there now." So we get there, fucking pull up. And it's a nice venue. I mean, it's a big, huge warehouse, basically, almost out in the middle of nowhere. Very first thing we see when we come around the corner was it was a merch tent, rebel flags fucking everywhere. I'm talking, they had the flags, they had the shorts, the bikinis, the shot glasses, the fucking the gun, with the rebel flag on it and everything. And I was like, fuck, like, what is this gonna be about? So I go in, and the very first person I see, I was like, "Hey, I'm here with Cultus Black," and I was like, "Where are we supposed to pull in at?" And the guy just looks at me. He's like, "I don't fucking know." I was like, "Fair enough." Very cool. So what ends up, it was an all day quote festival, which I'm still friends with some of the people that put on that festival, so I'm not gonna. It was their thing. Basically, it was a glorified all day show for a biker gang. Like that's what it was.
Alrighty.
So we had our own little green room, and some things happened. I mean, I'll tell you for an hour. I want to just say it out loud,
I can,
but
okay, well, here, how about I do this? All right, y'all, I thank you for tuning in. Unfortunately, my time has come up. If you want to know more, then you will have to check back at some of my other podcasts and future podcasts. Like and subscribe. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm Jake. This is the Merch King, Bill Young. And with that, I bid you guys a wonderful day. Keep it
check
easy,
out
y'all.
check out Cultus Black on all the Comic Christ tour this year and all the festivals we're doing, and we got a new single coming out with Twisted, which is gonna be fucking fire. I've heard it's good, so everybody's gonna like it. But yeah, check us all out.
Give them some love. All right. And